And
Hi, welcome to episode 3 of Real Leaders, Real Connection. And what we do with these short interviews is get to know the people that are in our environment, in our context, and in our Ask Daphne All Things Leadership group. And today we've got Jonathan Bloom, who is also a friend, lives in the same city as me, and I'm delighted to have you on board today for our chat and interview. How are you, Jonathan?
all right, and you. Thanks, Daphne. Thanks for including me in all of this.
I'm really happy to have you here. So, Jonathan, as you know, we're going to start with what is a story that you would like to share with us today? Something from your life that would be good to let us in and have a glimpse of something about you.
Okay, so when I was thinking about this, I wasn't sure whether to do a business story or a personal story. But in the end, I decided to go with the personal story, mainly because you were partially involved in our decision process and getting us through the goal that we had set for ourselves. And also was a fundamental change in our lives. So I thought we'd go with that.
Cool. I'm keen to hear it.
All right, so just like you, we grew up and got married and started our family in South Africa. And we got to the point where we decided that it was time to move on from South Africa. And, obviously everyone's quite aware that there are some issues in South Africa regarding personal safety and the future and education of our children. So we decided it was time to leave the country and move elsewhere. And there was a bit of a clash between myself and my wife in terms of where to go and when to go. But in the end, when we finally made the decision that we had to set ourselves a time frame to go and chose the country we wanted to go to, we actually turned to you to assist us with preparing us for this big change in our lives, and to put together a plan to make sure that we could do it successfully.
I remember that, actually. I remember that.
So it did happen to come at the end of our personal coaching sessions. So we added on a couple of sessions to the end. But essentially there, the goal was, once we made up our mind, we wanted to do it as soon as possible. And our decision was to move to Israel. But we wanted to do it from a very positive perspective and from a very realistic perspective. And I think one of the key things that was the challenge for us is that there were a lot of challenges with moving to a new country, learning a new language, making a whole change for what your children's upbringing is going to be, and the associated risks and reward that can come from such a move. And I think one of the key things that really got us going was realizing, number one, that we needed help. Because I think that is the first thing that leaders have to understand is that you don't know everything and you're not perfect and not everything is necessarily within your grasp. However, if you are willing to reach out and kind of put yourself on the line and admit that you can go to somebody else who may know more than you or who may just be more of an expert in what it is that you need to achieve, then you should. And you should never be afraid to go out and ask for something, even if it kind of puts yourself in a bit more of a vulnerable position, because asking the advice of others and not necessarily having been through the same situation, but who can give an independent thought process to something, can make a huge difference in helping you make wise and calculated decisions.
Jonathan, you are touching on such an important point here, because I think the whole thing of asking for help, feeling vulnerable and bringing people into that space is a really, really difficult topic for leaders. So I'd like to talk about that a little bit more, but I'd love to understand, if we go back to your experience, and I definitely remember being part of it, and I remember being inspired by your decision because we were also living in South Africa at that time, and creating that or taking that decision to make such a big change, as you say, move country, and you're changing everything about your life, your context, your experience, your friendships, your social circles, your business, your work, everything changes. And you're also going to a country where the language is different. is a huge challenge. So I remember at the time finding that incredibly inspiring and thinking, wow, that is courageous to make this decision. That's number one. And number two, to actually go about it in a very planned and structured way. So I remember you and Lauren, your wife, came and we sat together and built the plan around how this would work. What do you need to think about? How do you put all of the elements together so that you can have the most successful transition process? So if you are talking about that element of asking for advice and asking for help, are you talking about that time when we worked together on your plan, or are you talking about after you had made the move? And actually, even then, I imagine there's a lot of need to ask for help in actually settling into the new environment, or is it both?
So when I came up with this as the topic to speak about, I was thinking more about the actual process of making the decision, as opposed to arriving when we actually did move and arrive in Israel and life going on from there, which, to be fair, was not exactly as we had expected and planned. But I think the process of actually doing the planning made it a lot easier for us to actually be successful.
Okay. So tell me, what got you to the point of asking for help at that moment? Was it about making the decision? Was it about creating the right framework or plan or structure for the decision? What got you to that point of saying, okay, we need to seek out help and this is who we're going to ask?
So I think the main thing that got me to that decision is, number one, once we had made the decision that we wanted to leave, we wanted to do it as quickly as possible, and we wanted to be as realistic as possible about the decision. And I think that the methodologies that I've learned through the personal coaching or the business coaching was that start with a goal in mind and work your way backwards from there.
Yeah.
And we needed a way to actually, even call it as basic as a checklist, but in order to get our thoughts in the right process, make sure we've covered all the bases, and also to try not necessarily spin negatives into positives, but try turn issues into challenges and something that we could overcome. And I think the key thing was to be able to identify these. And really the reason why I came to you specifically to assist with that is that through the process of how you had helped me with my business and to get back on track with my business, I realized that I don't really know everything. And even if you do a fortune of research and you ask a bunch of people who've been through the same process before, it's not necessarily going to help you put together a time frame and a timeline and take into consideration all the things that are necessary. And I think that part of it was one of the inspirations around me going to somebody who was an expert on the coaching side to actually get my thought process correct, as opposed to necessarily telling me what the challenges are going to be. And by being able to go through that process, we work together as a team to actually come up with those positive reasons, looking at what those challenges were and doing a critical evaluation of our decision-making process and the steps we had to go through to actually bring it about in a very short space of time.
That's awesome. I just want to thank you, first of all, for that huge acknowledgement. Just hugely warms my heart. And I have to say, this was not planned, right? That this is what you were going to talk about. But it just warms my heart to actually, hear that I was, an important part of this process. And
Definitely.
that we've remained in touch and actually friends all these years. It's really wonderful. And at the same time, I want to highlight this point of two things. We can't know everything in our situation, and having someone to work with to figure it out, create a plan, create a structure, understand, identify the obstacles and challenges and work through those. And the interesting thing is that we were working on a plan for something that I hadn't experienced myself. So it's not like I had to be an expert in immigration or transition to a new country or anything like that. It's just the ability to work in partnership with someone who can help your thinking along and help you to create, as you say, the goal, work backwards. What are the structures? What are the checklists? What are the obstacles? What do you need to think about? That's hugely valuable. So, the fact that you identified the need and then you went and did it, recognize that you don't know everything and you don't need to know everything, those are all key to being leaders in our lives and in our businesses as well. That's something we can take into any area.
Exactly, and I definitely agree with that. And I do believe I've tried quite hard to bring that into my work life as well. Obviously, in work, there are different challenges. You've got personalities to deal with. You've got teams you're reporting to. You've got senior leadership who you're reporting to. So it's not always necessarily easy. You also you've got to be careful about putting yourself in too much of a vulnerable position. If you're asking for too much help, it can make you look inefficient. If you're asking for not enough help, it can make you look arrogant. So there's always going to be a fine balance around that. Right. And as a leader, you've also got to present, the right methodology and the right approach to your team as well. So, you've got to encourage people who work with you and for you to seek help when they need it, but also to take the initiative and come up with a decision first. It doesn't mean that you're stuck with something and the first thing you do is go out and seek help. Rather go do some research, come up with 2 or 3 options and then go seek help. So instead of just going and asking a question, show that you've done the research, show that you've put in the effort, show that you come up with some potential solutions, and actually then go forward with a plan and seek help on that. And so from a business life, I found that very important, and to rather go out there and do the work. It's kind of like if you're in a race, or, you're training for the army or whatever it is, and everyone is being evaluated. Now, it's one thing to run along the race and, run together with your work colleagues and all of you come through together at the end. But then you seem like you're the exact same as the rest of the pack. If you want to get your colleagues to the end game, or you want to show that you are a team player and you want to work together with your team, there's no reason you can't run all the way to the end of the race and then run back and work with your colleagues to the end. Amazing. So that's a lesson I learned from somewhere else. But the point of that is that, it's good to show that you are capable and that you are a leader, but you also at the same time have to show that you're a team player. And to find a fine balance between that can often be difficult. But in the end, if you can, and show that you know exactly what to do, but you can also bring other people up to achieve what their potential is, then I think that is one of the key things of leadership that I've also learned along the way.
So you've actually given us 2 incredible lessons here. One is that actually asking for help. Don't think you know everything or you have to go it alone. And I'm going to add to that what you said, which is make your effort first. So asking for help is not going to someone and asking for the answer. It could be help to think through stuff when you've done a little bit of the way, and then someone's going to help you to kind of develop your thinking, come up with new ideas, or kind of go the rest of the distance. And the second thing, which you said, which is lovely, is really about how do you keep that balance between standing out, so run to the end of the race, and be a team player, come back and bring your team forward. And that is also an incredibly important leadership lesson, because you've got to lead and you've also got to bring your team with you. And that is a challenge that I often see in my work with my clients as well. How do you manage that balance? So those are 2 great lessons. Thanks for sharing, Jonathan.
Pleasure.
Our final question is, which city do you live in? And I know the answer to that one, but which city do you live in and what do you love about it?
So when we moved, it was about 11 years ago, we moved to a city called Ramallah, which is in Israel. And it's a great city. It's got a big Anglo community, which, helped the absorption process to be a lot less challenging, to have like-minded people around you. What I really love about it is just a modern city. It's well taken care of. There are really great people around. There's a great sense of community. It's really safe. Your kids can walk around in the street at night. And, as someone coming from South Africa, one of the greatest and most important things that we had to overcome was the fear for our personal safety. And I think that that is one of the key things about the city, is that that's not even a concern in your mind. You're not even thinking in that direction. You're more worried about who your kids are hanging out with, or what's going on in the news, than you are actually worried about what's going on in your city, and that your personal safety is under threat. So, but on the positive side, it's just a great city, great people, and just right in the center of things. So, great place to live. If anyone's thinking of coming to Israel, come check out Ramallah.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jonathan. Thanks for being on my mini show, just getting to know people, getting to know leaders and staying connected. And for anybody who is watching and listening, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting subscribe below. Thank you.